I'm going to talk about the dangers of discontent in our progressive march to the lotus feet of Krishna. Spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, is based on enthusiasm. The first attribute we have to have in Krishna consciousness is utsaha. Utsaha nisyadharyat tat tat karma pavartanat. Rupa Goswami says enthusiasm. But mundane discontent drains enthusiasm. If all the time we're feeling, this is wrong, that's wrong. And we find sometimes devotees are discontent and they want to vent that and share it with others, which is disruptive. It's a kind of violence caused by an uncontrolled mind. What is it when we have so many facilities to be Krishna conscious and everything's not going to be perfect, but we just tend to see that which could be better. And of course, there's always room for improvement, or we see something which is not going properly and making mountains out of molehills, exaggerating things which are not going right, or attributing the worst motives to persons who are trying to be Krishna conscious. Or it may be that we're not all perfect, of course. It may be that we do have some motive which isn't correct, but take that to be like the sthai bhav, the underlying motive. People are trying to be Krishna conscious. We have our material conditioning, and if we concentrate on always looking at the worst part of the material conditioning of others, well, that's maybe the worst part of our own material conditioning. But unwarranted criticism of others, putting them down, it's an expression of insecurity on our own part, psychological insecurity. Malice, a kind of power play to show I'm better than you. It's a fact that some devotees are really trying to be Krishna conscious, but we all come with our mental baggage, and some people have an abrasive nature, which isn't conducive for Krishna consciousness, not a saintly quality to be by nature always disturbing others with harsh words and harsh dealings. But there are devotees like that, who they come into Krishna consciousness and they just bring this fault-finding tendency with them. It's a dilemma. We want to give a chance to everyone, especially those who are sincere to be Krishna conscious, but not everyone can change their own nature overnight. And if you have a particularly abrasive kind of nature, then it can disturb the whole society of devotees. There are some descriptions in His Holiness Giriraj Swami's book about the establishment of Sri Sri Radha Rasbihari's temple by Srila Prabhupada in Juhu, Bombay, of one devotee who would just regularly get in fights with us and others, and not just verbal. It would begin verbally, and then they'd get into real heavy physical fights, really heavy. And devotees wanted to throw him out, but Srila Prabhupada, no. But eventually Srila Prabhupada said, you better go to America. go back to America. It was causing so many problems. We can see how Srila Prabhupada dealt with various devotees. Srila Prabhupada had among his leaders some devotees who are very powerful, but very egoistic also, and they would push others to the point where they would almost snap. Srila Prabhupada engaged some devotees who are very difficult kind of personalities, but they were really trying to work hard for Srila Prabhupada. And he got them to do a lot of service. So what do? Tolerate egoism in others. We can look at our own hearts also. I mean, now I'm expressing discontent about others' discontent, but we have to look at our own hearts and rectify ourselves. But we see that Srila Prabhupada, to get this amazing Krishna conscious movement all over the world, amazing how he managed to get it going and started and running on, and it's still running on. He had to tolerate all kinds of strange behaviors and sometimes perverse behaviors among his disciples. That doesn't mean that we should tolerate our own anarthas or bad things in the heart. We should work on that. If we are excessively egoistic, of course we're all excessively egoistic because any false ego is too much. But if we have that, if we're unnecessarily proud or putting others down or trying to show ourselves to be the best, it's good to recognize that and try to work on that. Try to become purified, because it doesn't only harm our own spiritual life, but it causes disturbance in the Vaishnava community. There may be some envy of others, just like in our Krishna conscious movement, the central activity is chanting Hare Krishna, singing Hare Krishna. Some people have a very good singing voice. Others don't, and there's not that much you can do about it if you have not very good singing voice. Of course, you could take lessons and try to practice and improve, but we're not here to be really great musical, talented singers. It is a kind of misfortune to be in the Sankirtan movement and not have a good singing voice, one which is very harsh or whatever. I'm content with my singing voice. It's good enough to lead a kirtan sometimes, not much these days because I tend to lose my voice, but nothing to get puffed up about. I'm not a great singer in terms of musical ability, but that's not the point. Of course, we should sing nicely for Krishna, but even without great musical ability, we sing from our hearts and Krishna is pleased. I'm just using that as an example, how we could be discontent or envious. Someone is singing so nicely, I'm not singing so nicely, but there's no need for that. Whatever talents we have, we engage in Krishna's service. Don't be envious of others. And if we have some talent more than others, then don't be envious of others, and in the sense that we want to show ourselves to be better than them. We have from the Bhagavatam, Narada speaks to the Prajetas. By showing mercy to all living entities, being satisfied somehow or other, and controlling the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Janardana, Bhavagrahi Janardana. Janardana, the Supreme Lord, accepts our mood, how we are approaching Him, not exactly what we do, but the mood of devotion in what we do, in which we do it, being satisfied somehow or other, which indicates that satisfaction is not common. In material consciousness, we're all discontent. We always want something, or we get disturbed by little things. Sometimes you see people get disturbed by little things. They just get agitated by things which we can learn to just tolerate. Tang satikshasva bharata. Of course, it's good to be discontent with our material situation if that's an impetus for our spiritual life. If we start to think, what am I doing in this? What am I doing? Working, studying, discontent. What's the purpose of my life? That's an impetus for spiritual life. But having come to spiritual life, if we always keep a spirit of discontent, that can be very harmful for our spiritual progress. Now, it's natural to feel disturbed in this world because the whole world is disturbing. There's adhyatmic, adibhotik, adidaivik klesh. The whole material world is set up to be disturbing. Our own minds are disturbing us. Our bodies are disturbing us in so many ways. Other living beings are disturbing us. The whole situation around us, everything is a disturbance. But Krishna advises, tang satikshasva, learn to tolerate. Tolerance can be developed by practicing not reacting to disturbances, especially minor ones. Don't get all upset over small things. Learn or practice to take small setbacks in our stead, not to get overly upset. It just came in my mind right now. Once we were doing Harinam Sankirtan in Birmingham, the major city in Britain, and we were passing, these were the days before cell phones, so he was speaking on a public phone, and we were going past, and we were going past, within a minute we had gone past, but he became so disturbed that we're disturbing his phone call. I don't know if it was a very important call. Another thing came to my mind. Early morning in Munich, in Germany, we were just walking out from an apartment where I was staying, and we just walked out, and we just happened to be in front of the garage where someone was coming out of their garage in her car, and she was going slowly, driving the car. We didn't think about it much, so we just walked in front of it. It delayed her by about 10 seconds, and she looked so upset. We delayed her from coming out of the parking area by 10 seconds. So this kind of thing. Don't get upset over little things. Don't even mention it, or don't show any sign of irritation, such as grimacing. And if we practice like that, tolerance soon becomes our second nature, and one is no longer agitated by what previously would have caused us agitation. Other people, if they think, oh, they're just irritating me, but we may think that, well, maybe I'm irritating them too. Just like one time Srila Prabhupada was walking in a park in London, and some ducks were walking in the path in front of Srila Prabhupada, and a disciple shooed them away, saying, "Get out of here, you rascals." And Srila Prabhupada said, just as you are thinking they are rascals, they're thinking you are rascals. It's useful to consider that everyone has their own nature, which is hard to change, and that many people's natures won't exactly jibe with ours. So to a large extent, we have to accept people as they are, try to see the good in them, try to get on with them. It's a Sankirtan movement, cooperation movement. It may be that someone in particular is very irritating to ourselves, and some people, by their nature, they tend to irritate pretty much everyone they come in contact with, and naturally we'll tend to try to keep our distance from them and not interact with them so much. There may be so many reasons for us to argue and not cooperate with others, but there is one sufficient reason for us to love and cooperate with others in the Sankirtan movement, and that is because it's pleasing to Krishna. As we read from Bhagavatam, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by being satisfied, cooperating with each other in Krishna consciousness. On the other hand, those who feel all the time dissatisfied at heart and they vent their dissatisfaction on others, they disturb others, and they want to spread their dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction can arise from material discontent, material desire. Maybe someone wants a position or wants to be noticed or just has a fault-finding tendency. Or there can be genuine causes for dissatisfaction, or it can be a mixture. That there are things which issues which need to be addressed. There is state of discontent in our heart due to material leanings, and we take advantage of subtle psychology. We take advantage of a situation in which something is wrong and use that to vent our dissatisfaction. Generally, we are advised to tolerate and count our blessings, but leaders especially, they should be alert, because one dissatisfied person can just go around and gossip and whisper and spread the discontent. Leaders should address genuine points of concern, but those who are not leaders should know that management is a very difficult service, because there are going to be those who are displeased with you, because you're not able to satisfy everyone or do things the way that everyone thinks you should do it. You manage and you may make mistakes, or even if you don't make mistakes, well, it's hard not to make mistakes, but even then some devotees, they're just unhappy and critical. They don't like the way you do things. But you have to try to address the issues. It can take so much time. You may spend hours and hours trying to speak with someone and trying to explain to them why you do it like this. And they may not be very able to understand that. And then you may not spend hours and hours, but then they just go around and vent their dissatisfaction on others and break their faith or make them doubt that you are competent to lead others. It's very difficult to establish faith and very easy to break it. Discontent. It's material consciousness means discontent. And it increases as Kali Yuga increases. Prayanal payusha sabhya kalavasmin yuge janaha manda sumanda mateo manda bhagya hi upadrutaha. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Above all, always disturbed. Quarrelsome, always disturbed. Elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada writes that in this age, men are victims not only of different political creeds and parties, victims of different political creeds and parties, but also of many different types of sense gratificatory diversions, such as cinemas, sports, gambling, clubs, mundane libraries, bad associations, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickerings, and so on. So bickering, I'm probably just making this complaints all the time, making some complaint, nagging. If we are all the time in this discontent mood, it means we're a victim of our own mind. This kind of discontent is instilled in us by the consumer culture. We are, from the beginning of life, at the mercy of people who are marketing so many products. At the mercy means they're constantly bombarding us with propaganda to buy so many things. They're trying to dictate how we should eat, what we should dress in, what kind of songs we should hear, what kind of apartment we should live in. We think we're independent, but if we just study, we can see that we're controlled by the propaganda of this consumer culture, which programs us to do what is not good for us and programs us to be discontent, that we always want more, we should always want more, always buy this, you have to get this. To go up the ladder, and Marxism also. That's not consumer culture, but that's also based on perpetual discontent, always blaming others, seeking to drag them down. On the other hand, we find in Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna describes one of the qualities of his devotee, santushta satatam yogi. He's always content. And the opposite side of that, ashantasya kutas sukham. One who's not peaceful in heart, they can never be happy. So we're raised in this consumer culture of always being discontent, and then this influence of Marxism, neo-Marxism, always trying to pull others down and blame others for our problems. So even after coming to Krishna consciousness, we may feel that we should always be discontent. Instead of surrendering to the process, always look for faults in others and broadcast them. And in this way we cheat ourselves and others. And even if there's nothing major to scream about, then you can latch on to some controversial point, just like, for instance, this theory that Srila Prabhupada was murdered by poison is being promoted more and more and going on promoting it, although there might be something which seems like prima facie evidence, but then, that's another whole subject. First of all, they said it was arsenic poisoning, and that was debunked, and 20 years later they came up with cadmium poisoning. Whoever heard of anyone being poisoned to death by cadmium? Who would know how to do that, how to get the cadmium, how to administer? The whole thing is so strange, but there are other, we have to bring this out, we have to show that Srila Prabhupada was poisoned. So there's just an example of the kind of thing that people get all worked up about, instead of surrendering to the process of Krishna consciousness. And now you may point your finger at me. I'm a fault finder. How can I say this? I've tried to be constructively critical on various points. I find it's largely falling on deaf ears. I'm trying to do what I can positively within my limited sphere of influence. Not that I've given up addressing issues, but there are genuine reasons for serious discontent. I'm not saying there aren't. What I'm talking about here is unnecessarily causing problems. I'm addressing particular situations that I have to address within the areas that I work, and unnecessarily fault-finding, spreading discontent. But there may be good reasons for serious discontent. For instance, if the local temple president is not properly following all the principles and badly mistreats devotees. that's something to be discontent about. If that's a continued pattern over years, that a temple president is not following the principles and badly mistreats devotees, well, that's something which is badly impacting the whole spiritual life of so many devotees. So that's something to be concerned about. But in general, it's best if we direct our discontent outward. We have discontent in our heart. Look at the world all around us. It's going to hell. It is hell. We should be discontent with the whole society around us and try to help the people who are suffering without Krishna consciousness by spreading Krishna consciousness. Or we can direct our discontent toward ourselves, improve ourselves. I spoke previously in one talk about divine discontent, that whatever stage we're at, we think, I have to improve myself, or we as a community or as a movement, we have to improve. That's appropriate dissatisfaction. Because if we feel satisfied to the extent that we think we don't have to improve, then there's no tendency to move forward. So dissatisfaction should be there in the sense that we always feel we have to do more in Krishna's service. But just trying to see the faults of others, making discontent where it's not necessary to do so. Yeah, I'm discontent about discontent. I guess I have an excuse, being a guru. A guru should always be discontent with his disciples, even if they're doing well. So I've heard from Srila Prabhupada. But many times, the disciples are not doing well, and they need correcting, and that is an important duty of a guru. We see that in Indian culture, of course, Indian culture is also going to hell, but the culture is there that fathers and uncles, they are strong, they are heavy, and they may chastise you. It may seem too strong. Sometimes you're not even doing anything wrong, but it's tolerated. That's the culture is there. It's the father or the uncle. That's their job, to keep us in line. It's practically unquestioning that you have to just accept how they chastise. Traditionally, this has changed now, and the quality of education has gone down, but traditionally, teachers and headmasters, they were very strict disciplinarians. I'm saying the quality of education has gone down, maybe one reason because there's no allowance to discipline children, to discipline boys especially. So it's hard to educate them unless they're a little bit afraid of the teachers. That may be there. So disciplining, expressing discontent, that is appropriate for certain persons, not for everyone. The children shouldn't express discontent against the parents, although now in law they're trained to do that in this bizarre society of the present day. What are we trying to do here in Krishna consciousness? We're engaged in the unlikely attempt to turn people around from this materialistic consciousness and make them into saintly persons. So that there has to be some discipline, some correction. I remember when I was first allowed in this Krishna consciousness movement, there was no Bhakti program, and there was no formal training in anything, and naturally I did everything wrong all the time. It was just like, it was just like getting battered all the time. Don't do that! Ah, you fool! So, but to do anything significant in this world requires changing, shaking, pushing, making a disturbance. Not everyone will like it. Enemies will be created. We're not trying to make enemies. But there has to be some pushing. So we're looking here at discontent stemming from the material platform. Within our heart, we have material desires, and they get expressed as an unhealthy kind of discontent. Maya enters the heart in this way, and it can destroy the spiritual life of an individual who's always moaning and groaning about this and that, and spreads it around. Misery loves company, making others discontent who weren't discontent. And in this way, the whole community can be poisoned. It can be about valid concerns that we exaggerate, but many times we see that the root of discontent, it's not so much what we say it is or what we perceive it to be. It's not so much the external circumstances as the imbalance. It's an internal reason that we are discontent in our heart, maybe because we're restricted from material desires by taking to Krishna consciousness. Whatever it may be. Consider what a great gift we have coming to Krishna consciousness. Don't spoil it. Don't go away thinking, devotees, they're no good. Yeah. Problems should be dealt with. If they're serious problems, they should be dealt with. Otherwise, they spread more and more. They metastasize into grievances, and then grievances that becomes exaggerated. So we shouldn't neglect problems. Praya and Alpa, getting back to that verse, we're always disturbed. Why are we always disturbed? Why is there so much mental disease in the world at the present time? There may be various causes for that. Deep in our consciousness, in our subconsciousness, we are all aware of how fragile our situation is in this world, how fragile, how little security we have. That everything can be destroyed. We have very little security. Especially in the modern age, how few people actually care for us. Does anyone care for us? How few friends we have. How few people we can really trust. Can we trust anyone? Everyone else around us is under the same pressure as we are from the senses, from lust and greed and anger. And so our mind is always disturbed, and the minds of others are always disturbed. And then we distrust others, and then they act in a certain way, and we ascribe it to what we presume to be their bad feeling toward us. And then it's almost as if we need someone to hate, or we need someone to be a scapegoat for all of our own internal discontent. It doesn't take much imagination to make accusations. It doesn't take much time also. And you bring out an accusation. I'm not talking theoretically here, I've seen this. You bring out an accusation, and then it seems to make sense, and then you have to spend so much time to try to convince the person that, well, actually, maybe you misjudged the situation. And then you have to So much time can be wasted just because devotees are discontent and they express their discontent, and you have to try to assuage them that actually, no, it's not like that. Those who are accusing, they have some kind of advantage over the accused, because those who are accused of, oh, you only did that because you wanted, and it's hard to disprove. And then you get a picture of someone and you just ascribe bad motives to them, and you give more and more accusations, and all the time painting a blacker and blacker picture of the accused person. And then they may not even want to respond to you, and then you show that, well, that's proof that they're wrong. They can't even reply to what I say. Therefore, in law, there should be a presumption of innocence unless there's proof of guilt, the benefit of the doubt. And in the legal system, slander, libel, defamation, these are all punishable. Now, this doesn't mean that we should be blind to actual deviations. We should be discontent about deviations, but don't unnecessarily be discontent. I'm speaking in a very general way here. It's a general topic. Those who can understand or relate to what I'm talking about, they can understand. If not, if you're living in a society of devotees where everyone's cooperating nicely, wonderful, wonderful, very good, very nice. But then in that situation, someone can come and just start whispering. Internally, everyone's a potential volcano ready to erupt anytime. We all have so many things in our hearts. Don't let the discontent burst up and spoil everything. We have so much pressure of the mind the Maya trying to pull us away. Chant and dance. Let out that, of course, chanting and dancing is for cultivating love of Krishna, but Chaito Darpana Marjanam, it cleanses the dust of the mirror on the heart. So let out that energy, that bad energy, by chanting Hare Krishna. Transform it into the positive energy of Krishna consciousness. That's the only solution ultimately. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastreva, 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 Gatiranyata. So Srila Prabhupada said, instead of having so many meetings and discussions and resolutions and no solutions, better chant Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada called the GBC members together in Mayapur for meetings, but what he mostly wanted in Mayapur was not meetings, but kirtan, Sankirtan, the Sankirtan capital of the world. Be aware of the dangers of discontent. Don't let it consume your spiritual life. Be aware of deviations. Don't let deviations spoil your spiritual life. Let us go forward in Krishna consciousness with keen discrimination, knowing what we should be discontent about and what we should tolerate, and don't become so negative that we always see the bad side of things. See our good fortune. Krishna has come to us in the form of the holy name, the association of devotees, guidance of devotees, guru, and let us take advantage of that. Go forward in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.